What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Late Round Fantasy Football Show. This is week 4, and listen, there's a lot of teams out there that are S and the B, and we are going to try to F the P. That means fix the problem. We're going to talk about all today's news. We got some bold predictions. We're going to talk about the quad box, all the stuff that you have come to know and love here on the Late Round Fantasy Football Show, sponsored by DraftKings. Welcome in, David Kitchen alongside JJ Zachariason.
You know, it's a good thing that I cut out your intro part whenever I put it in the podcast feed.
You didn't fix the problem?
You said fix the problem just so folks who are only audio listening this week. Kitchen said we were gonna F the P is what he said.
After I said some teams are out there S and the B,
which is
what you said earlier.
And then we're gonna F the P. Yeah, just a very normal thing to say that wouldn't have any other meaning.
Honestly, I'm not joking. That was on the fly, and I didn't realize till you started the intro music that that's gonna be good.
Yeah,
that's gonna be
it's gonna be something. Okay. That's for sure.
I was riding down the road though, listening to the Late Round podcast when you're talking about CJ Stroud. This is the Sleepers episode, I think.
Yeah, it was the intro.
This is also going to be in the newsletter. It's going to be actually the headline of the newsletter. So, when you said CJ Stroud was S in the B,
yeah, he S the B this past week.
He S the B. At first, I was like, "What?" And then it
yeah. I do that on Living the Stream a lot. Where which by the way, people who are watching this on YouTube right now, or folks who listen to the podcast and whatnot, it's jarring sometimes for people when they go and they watch/listen to Living the Stream, because it is a hour-long show every week, and 45 minutes of that is not football, right? It's just Denny and I talking about random stuff. And so now that we're on the YouTube channel, we've been doing that for the last couple of years, but now that we've beefed up the YouTube channel and we're working hard on getting people to subscribe, which, by the way, subscribe to the YouTube channel.
Yeah.
There's more random people that don't, I don't want to say random people, but, people who haven't. And this past week, we were talking about some really crazy bathroom stuff and whatnot. So, that's what you get with that show. And then with the Late Round podcast, the typical feed, all fantasy football. Yeah. And then this one's a little bit of a mix of both. This is still like 95% fantasy football, this show.
Yeah, this is like, loosen up your buttons, talk about
the Friday.
It's a Friday show. It's an interactive show. So if you're watching live with us, just send some comments. We got some already, like Aaron, Pineapple. Did you ever see the pineapple pin? Pineapple, apple pin.
No,
did you ever see that video?
This is second. Is this another internet thing? Like last week you had whatever the reference was. I don't remember.
Jaeger bomb. Yeah, maybe I'm the guy who's online. But all these just fine folks saying that they are just loving the show. So appreciate you all. Also appreciate DraftKings for sponsoring today's show. You can head to DraftKings. You can click that QR code if you're watching online. If you're listening, in the podcast description or YouTube description, you'll see that for a free $5 ticket when you deposit. And listen, if you haven't played already, or if you're just wanting to put something down, they've got some free rolls there. Just do it out of thank you for them hosting all this best ball contest, because when my team is losing on a Sunday or a Monday, you know what I do, JJ?
What's up?
I look at my best ball contest.
Yeah, it does make you feel a little bit better, huh?
It makes you feel a little bit better. You sort by points and you look at those. Oh, wow. I was really smart.
Yeah. I'm pretty. I'm going through this phase right now where there's certain players I called out in the draft guide that I didn't call out, who I drafted a lot, and vice versa. And I'm sort of sorting through all of that. And so I'm hoping that people who consume the draft guide just listen to as much of my content this summer as possible. Because a guy like Rome Odunze, I didn't call him out as a player to target in the draft guide, but he's my highest rostered best ball player this season. And so I'm very excited about him. We won't talk about Jalen Wright and the Jalen Wright exposure because all that sort of happened and flipped around, early August whenever
you can tell my teams whenever I click on them because they've got Wright, Roschon Johnson, and like either Jaden Blue or Marshawn Lloyd, because those were the guys that were hot back then.
Yeah. Don't lose hope with Jaden Blue just yet. As I talked about on the mailbag show.
I know.
It's not Jover yet for him.
It's not Jover. And we say every week is maybe not Jover for Roschon, but I'm about ready.
Gosh, yeah.
Ready to call it.
Yeah.
Time of death.
Marshawn Lloyd, it was over because he clearly has bad hamstrings, and Jalen Wright couldn't stay healthy, and Ollie Gordon's good. So, that's the way it goes sometimes with those late round picks,
It happens. But we've got to sort through that. Like you said, you're sorting through things. We're sorting through things. One of the things that we're actually sorting through, JJ, is today's news.
Today's fantasy news.
I got to say something.
What?
There's some funny guys in the chat.
What are they saying?
Keith's saying, JJ, I hate Rome Odunze, Zachariason. Spider saying, oh, I get the newsletter. I know how JJ really feels about Rome. What's so funny? And we can close. I mean, hopefully we can finally close the Rome versus Igbuka thing. They're both really freaking good. And that's a great outcome for anyone who, was consuming my content and, like going forward with the stuff that I was talking about. Because I had talked about Rome Odunze being a high, like he had a high ceiling, like the prospect guide talked about how he could be a DeAndre Hopkins type. And then Igbuka, I just really liked as a prospect, which is why I made that dynasty move back in May as like a reroll. Man, though, it's just so fun. That's always going to stick, I think. And it's a fun meme at this point, but it's also hilarious at the same time.
Yeah. People definitely know how to mess with you. But I feel like you're messing with people back.
Yeah, of course I mess with people back.
This right here.
What fun
this right here was awesome. You said, talk about the Chase Brown panic. You linked the podcast, and then someone goes, Chase Brown is killing me, bum. I think he was saying like Chase Brown is killing me, bum.
Yeah, it should have been like a semicolon or like like an M dash or something like that. Yeah, but he used a comma instead.
You said, are you calling me a bum?
Yeah. So you guys will know if I'm not being serious, if I'm not using any punctuation. That's the way that if I'm just messing around with people, is if I just respond in a way where there's no punctuation whatsoever, if it's all lowercase or if it's whatever, then when I'm being serious, it's when there's a legit question mark at the end of that statement.
Okay. All right. Let's get on to today's news. We got some breaking news in the past hour. Oh dear. We've got just this Washington situation with Jaden Daniels and Terry McLaurin being out.
Yeah. I talked about this. I think that this is the kind of show where I can give a little bit more clarity on like the sleepers episode where I talked about Jalen Lane. I think that if you're doing like projections, you're going to project like Luke McCaffrey, Chris Moore, those kinds of wide receivers that are going to start for or get a lot of snaps for Washington more than likely. You're probably going to like project them to be better than like a Jalen Lane type. The reason I just am intrigued by Jalen Lane is that, number one, when I'm in these situations in fantasy football, and this is a game theory thing, where, it's Chris Moore, it's Luke McCaffrey. Like Luke McCaffrey had a really, really bad rookie season, more than likely, not going to become something of significance. I know we said that about like Quentin Johnston, but this is different. He wasn't the kind of prospect as QJ and was worse as a rookie. I'm more intrigued where if I'm losing a little bit in the projection to add a player like Jalen Lane, who's a rookie and who's intriguing from that perspective, I'd rather just do that and play that player, even though there's a loss in projection, because the projection is going to be pretty wrong anyway, because we're talking about like lower tiered players, right? So I would rather just add a guy like Lane, use a guy like Lane, who I think could be really, really dynamic. I think he's kind of a raw prospect. I'm not expecting the world, but I think that there's more intrigue in an offense like Cliff Kingsbury's, where he allows his wide receivers to do a little bit after the catch and get these passes closer to the line of scrimmage and stuff. I think he's more of a Debo replacement, admittedly. So if Debo was out, it would be a bigger deal in my opinion. But that's kind of the way that I think about this stuff. Like if I know that a player is likely not very good, sure, he might have a better week this week. Sure, that might happen, but I'd rather just take the chance on the rookie because if he ends up doing well, then you're already ahead of the game from a waiver wire perspective.
All right. We have a lot to talk about the Panthers. We can't even fit it all probably in these 10 boxes, but we got Hubbard, who is still injured with a calf. He's questionable.
A lot of conspiracy theories in the Discord today.
A lot of conspiracy theories.
By the way, really quick with the Commanders, I just want to throw out there, Marcus Mariota is a streamer this week just because, it's a decent enough matchup. It's also a revenge game for Marcus Mariota. Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I love Marcus Mariota.
Yeah. I mean, most teams are a revenge game at this point for Marcus Mariota. Probably.
No, he's been on like 3 or 4. Yeah. That's it. Okay.
Panthers.
Can we get back to the Panthers? Jatavian Sanders out. So we have that. I mentioned Hubbard being questionable.
Yeah.
Tataroa is questionable. Xavier Legette is out as well. So what's this offense going to look like this week?
Well, I believe Christian Gonzalez is looking decent to play, which is bad for Tet. You got to hope that he's not fully there yet because he hasn't been playing in a while. Chuba, I think you got to at least give him like maybe 90% of his typical workload and work, just given this injury. You can't like go 100%. If he ends up playing, I think he is going to end up playing. And then, so McMillan, obviously, if he doesn't go, like you're looking at some really bottom of the barrel players for Carolina. New England was already a streamer for me. I just think they become an even easier streamer. If you want like a really deep play that you could hypothetically use, I think Tommy Tremble might be that play. Stepping in for Jatavian Sanders, should see a really high route share. And then if there's no other wide receiver alternatives there, then, a strong wide receiver alternatives, then they could funnel some more targets his way. So I think Tremble might be like a deep sleeper play of all these guys that we're looking at this week.
Yeah, we talked about Trimble on the Swolecast as like a punt tight end, but he's been kind of a Swolecast staple in the past. I mean, they have used Trimble in the past as far as like last year when Jatavian Sanders was hurt. So we were talking in our little stand-up, half business, half therapy, half bragging about our fantasy team session this morning. And I was upset because someone had just during our meeting, someone in my home league had just picked up Coker. And I felt like that was on me for not realizing that Coker was still
I talked about it on the 15 transactions.
I know, JJ. I know. Listen, it's not on you, bud. This is on me.
Okay, good.
This is me.
I take those kinds of like when people tell me those stories in the Discord and stuff. I always am like, guys, I said, and they're like, I know. I'm just letting it out. I'm just letting it out right now.
Yeah, I'm just letting people know that they're not alone.
Yeah,
I'm right there with them. There with them. Like this guy on that team. I thought, hey, this guy could come on later. He could be just an amazing pick. Brandon Ayuk. Are you kidding me? He's not close right now. That's what they're saying. Not close to coming back.
Yeah, I mean, this is great news. My reaction is this is great news for Ricky Pearsall and Juwan Jennings. Juwan Jennings, at the time of this recording, we don't know if he's going to go this weekend or not. But Pearsall has looked the part. It's been nice to see. My second highest exposed wide receiver behind Roma Dunze over on DraftKings. Just had to throw that out there.
There you go.
But Pearsall has looked the part. I think Juwan Jennings could hypothetically be a buy low right now because he's forgotten about. I mean, the injuries have piled up a little bit. I think that could stem from him not getting enough camp work because he was doing that holdout thing. And so I think that Jennings, he might not go this weekend, but if we know that Ayuk isn't going to be back for a little bit, and at least towards the end of the season, and once it's towards the end of the season, who knows what things are going to look like by then. Jennings could be a pretty viable like wide receiver 3 option, and he's forgotten. Like no one wants Juwan. Like no one cares about Juwan Jennings right now. So Pearsall's already getting it done and doing his thing. George Kittle will be back eventually, and I think Kittle will be a top 3 tight end in fantasy. And then this obviously just allows the floor to stay steady for Christian McCaffrey. He's seeing so much work, and it's wild that after the offseason we had, he's the one who's stayed healthiest in that offense so far.
Really quick, want to give a shout out to Ludi Djibouti, Leggett future St. Louis Battlehawks legend.
Oh boy.
There you go. All right, Jaylen Warren is popped up on the injury report. I believe you might have posted this.
I did, because I'm a Warren bag holder. Yeah, I've got a decent amount riding on Warren this year, and I mentioned him as a buy this past week, and it popped up today that he's got this knee issue. The thing is with knee problems, it's usually like a more obvious, like if it's like it seems like with knees, it's like could be like a bruise or something like that, as opposed to like if it's like MCL or something like that's like a bigger deal from like a tendon perspective. This would be a bigger note than it currently is. So I'm hoping that it's nothing serious and that he's able to go this weekend.
Okay. Real quick, I just want to show, if you're watching right now, this is what you get with the late round Discord right here. You get Dave posting injury. Like this is just one channel, and we have cleaned it up.
Yeah.
Where it's just news and rumors. There are certain accounts we don't allow, but it's like a community curated list. Martin tried to get off track today. I said, Martin, let's make this clean and tidy. But this is what you get with the Discord. Go to lateround.com and click Discord, sign up today, join us in the Discord chat. All right, now we got running back injuries. Najee Harris, done.
Yeah.
James Conner, great guy, as is Najee Harris, done. Tyrone Tracy, separated shoulder. Mm-hmm. So we just talked about Jaylen Warren. What's your thought on some of these running back injuries that are now happening?
I want to say that there's at least some regression that's going on here based on what we saw last year. It's a punishing position. We're going to see injuries happen. The other thing, though, another one's Aaron Jones. But I do think that like if no other year, and I talked about this on the Mailbag show, people are panicking and they're reactionary and they're louder than usual with this stuff. And I think this year more than any other year, we're seeing that. And it does play into the shorter term and like the Najee Harris stuff, like Amari Hampton's going to be their RB1 rest of season. So we kind of can project that out. James Conner being out, we saw last night with how Arizona, which by the way, low key, the way that my brain is thinking right now about Trey Benson, probably more buy than sell.
Yeah, he looked good.
I might talk about him on the 15 transaction show because people are going to box score watch that game and see that Amari DiMercato got that touchdown at the end, and he was in the 2-minute and in the hurry up, which is definitely a thing that's going to be a part of the downside of Trey Benson because they've used DiMercato in that role. But the final snap count should not be as skewed as it is. It just so happens that they had a very sustained drive at that time, right? And so it just looks like the snap share was split the way that it was because of that. But I thought
Benson got 5 catches last night. Like you have to be.
Yeah. I don't think Benson's like a super special talent. But I also think that people are underrating the Seahawks defense. I mean, we've been talking about it all year that the Seahawks defense is good.
Yeah.
And they've been underrating that side. And then also just like it's okay if he's an RB2, which is what we kind of thought he would be. There's a lot of just dudes that are like in that range. Chuba Hubbard's kind of in that range. Just these guys who are fine, who I don't really like go after hardcore in drafts because I want more upside if I'm spending a 4th or 5th round pick on a player who's just going to be an RB2 because there's not that much to rise there. But in season, it's different. Like the cost to acquire is different. All the situations are different. So I do think that Trey Benson's a little bit intriguing. But my point about being reactionary to stuff is that there are players like Tyrone Tracy and Aaron Jones who are not out for the year. Like like I see a message from Keith. 5 catches. He's a running back, not a catching back. Next, you're going to tell me catches are good for scoring fantasy points or something ridiculous. Yeah. But like these guys aren't out for the. Aaron Jones is not out for the year. Tyrone Tracy is not out for the year. Yeah. They were giving Tyrone Tracy a decent amount of work to start that game against Kansas City last week. I like Cam Scatterbo. Like, I think that we have seen his game translate already to the NFL, which was a question mark because he's a bruiser, and that doesn't always work whenever you're playing against weaker competition. But he's got that dog in him. I mean, the dude is a psycho. He's crazy, right? And he's a little bit slow, and he's not going to have the same amount of burst as a guy like Tracy. But I still think him and Tracy work really, really well together in tandem. And when Tracy's back, he's going to steal some work from Cam Scatterbo. And so, there's been a lot of chatter about how Scatterbo is this automatic league winner. And it's like, he might be, sure, but can we at least like think about this from each end of the spectrum and say, okay, but Tyrone Tracy's going to be back. Jordan Mason, great rusher, great runner. We haven't seen him do much as a receiver. But Aaron Jones is going to be back at some point. We have to at least ground ourselves with these takes. And that's my job to do that for you guys, is to at least give you both sides of the spectrum here and not get too emotional about what's going on. And sometimes I will, and sometimes, I'll be wrong for doing that. But I just think that we got to cool our jets a little bit on crowning these dudes league winners. I mean, my gosh, do you remember after week 1, go look at the tweet saying Keon Coleman is a league winner? Like, we got to just chill. Can we just relax for a second? That's all I ask. Relax.
I was going to reach for my phone to check Hubbard's game log and just spilled my Coke everywhere. But
Chuba Hubbard's game log has been
what you said it was going to be.
Losing work the last 2 weeks to Rico Dowdle, including goal line work, and lucking out by scoring garbage time receiving touchdowns in weeks 1 and 2. That's been Chuba Hubbard's season. Like, let's just he's fine. He's a good player. Like, I don't think that he's like a league winner. He's fine though. And he's doing more or less what I thought he would be doing. He's gotten very fortunate that he scored those late game touchdowns through the air. But, like, Rico Dowdle's played a role on that team, and he played a goal line role last week. And I've seen a lot of people because I do the data dump every week, and I talked about Chuba Hubbard and his snap share or not, his workload basically this past week in that data dump thread. And then I saw a lot of people, it made its way to Reddit, and people were commenting on it. And someone was saying how what I was tweeting was misleading. And it's like, it's not misleading. It's a fact. It's just a stat that happened. And they were like, oh, but the game script went a certain way. It's like, okay, well, what happens if the game script goes that way again? Like, you're similar to Trey Benson. We would have loved if Trey Benson were on the field for that 2-minute stuff. Like, that would give him, imagine if he got Amari DeMarcado's work last night, people would be saying that he's an RB1 rest of season in fantasy football. He just didn't, because they're not using him in that way. Similarly, the Panthers didn't use Chuba Hubbard. Chuba Hubbard was seeing work in a blowout at the end of that game. This is not just a game script thing. They are using Rico Dowdle a little bit. And, if that continues, maybe it doesn't, but if that continues, that's going to hurt a player like Hubbard. I think, like I said, RB2, nothing wrong with an RB2, but I don't think that he has like a true RB1 ceiling.
It also, all these injuries, and it's kind of redefining that running back dead zone.
A little bit. I mean,
Connor, we definitely Hubbard, Caleb Johnson, Tyrone Tracy, like all those guys.
A little bit, depending. The thing is, though, is that, like I said, this offseason, I just think everyone has a different definition of dead zone. It just kind of convolutes the idea a little bit.
But this is what the dead zone is going to be. We know, we're redefining what that dead zone is. That's what I'm saying.
Maybe, yeah.
It's going to be that pocket of guys is what it appears like. Aaron Jones is probably in that pocket too. All right. Yes. Redacted says, I love how the news titles are something snazzy, and then you have Jaylen Warren. That's because it was a last second ad.
Here we go. We got Kyle in chat saying concern warranted.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, that's good.
I like that.
All Kyle, right. You're hired, buddy.
Yeah. Thank you, Kyle. Low risk tolerance.
Is this Brian Thomas Jr.?
This is the BTJ. Yeah.
I'm just gonna say I've talked about him enough on the shows. That's what I'm saying. Like I feel like my general take is out there. I probably still have him more buy than sell. Because I think he's a really talented player. But we have to just be realistic that like these year 2 guys who have crazy good hit rates when they have really good rookie seasons, their hit rates aren't undefeated. And that's why I mentioned the 3 guys on the mailbag yesterday. So like, that's the downside case, but I still think he's good. I still am seeing good things from this Jacksonville offense that I'm intrigued by and interested in. I think Trevor Lawrence has to step his game up a little bit too, but it can still come together. I think that Travis Hunter not seeing as much work is a good thing for Brian Thomas too. Like that was a take that people had, that they thought that Travis Hunter could just be better than Brian Thomas. And if he's only going to run around on 60% of their dropbacks, then that's going to help Brian Thomas as well.
All right. Jordan Addison coming back.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's tough to trust Addison this week, but he is getting a good matchup against Pittsburgh. I think Joey Porter Jr. is still banged up. And Carson Wentz, it's tough to know exactly what this passing offense is going to be able to do. We didn't really get to see them in a normal environment last week, and they obviously had a pretty easy matchup. It's a pretty easy matchup this week. I don't think you can start Addison yet, but I think he's like a wide receiver 4 type. And then you got to hope that they can figure something out at the quarterback position.
Okay, Jackson start.
I'm just gonna put fun. I'm excited. I'm excited about Jackson.
Cover boy for today's show.
Someone that you can stash. Nothing wrong with that because he's gonna have some mobility and some rushing upside. But I still, this week, tough matchup, first start. I mean, just be pleasantly surprised instead of just like tilting your face off, because the chance that this goes south is much greater than it going well from a fantasy perspective. And there's enough quarterbacks out there that I think you can feel more comfortable playing, but I'd still stash him because I do think he has some rushing upside.
Okay. Godwin is questionable for this week. So is Tristan Wirfs. We got Mike Evans obviously out. So what's your thoughts on this Bucs passing situation?
I just have a hard time thinking that, because like I published my top 50 and someone on Patreon was like, where's Chris Godwin? And I'm like, I don't think that you can really play him coming off of this injury, not knowing what his snap share is going to look like. And they're already hyping up Sterling Shepard a little bit. Like I had Shepard as a sleeper on the sleeper show this week. I just, I think there's going to be a ramp up period with Chris Godwin, and we don't know what that's going to look like. So, obviously starting Buka, who I think could see a really high target share despite a tough matchup. Sterling Shepard's fine as a sleeper. I don't think you can trust Godwin yet, but you guys got to take the W's, if they come, even if they're on your bench. If Godwin goes off this week, that's fantastic news for your fantasy team. That means that he's good, he's ready to roll, and this offense is going to cook, right? But if, I still think that the logical thing is that they're going to slow roll this a little bit and not just like throw them out there on 100% of their dropbacks.
Okay, I think you might have mentioned this on the Q&A, the members Q&A about AD Mitchell possibly this week, but Pierce has been ruled out with a concussion.
Yeah, I had AD as a sleeper on the sleeper show.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Pierce out with a concussion, the 1-to-1 play here. I think a lot of people would assume, it's Josh Downs who's going to benefit most. I think it's going to be AD Mitchell because we've seen this in the past. Last time Alec Pierce missed time, AD Mitchell had like a 93% route share. He had a really good camp. There was a lot of buzz around AD Mitchell this summer. This is a game that could be higher-ish scoring. I still really want to see. I'm not saying I don't believe in the Colts, but I want to see what they do against like a legit pass rush like this on the road, right?
Yeah.
And then if they pass this test against the Rams,
right,
I think that we should all feel very, very comfortable about the Colts moving forward.
Yes. Someone asked me about the Titans pass rush, if it was, or the Titans pass defense, if it was legit. And I just said, no, it is not legit. The Titans are just bad. So teams don't really have to throw against them.
But with the Rams, like they can get to the quarterback. Daniel Jones has had a really good pressure to sack ratio so far this year. But that hasn't been the case in his history. So I'm just interested to see what happens. It's been a small sample still. I've liked what I've seen from the Colts, but I don't want to again, I'm trying to just be level headed here. So, I think this Rams Colts game could be really fun and interesting. AD Mitchell, a lot of upside, pretty raw prospect when he came out, but can play that perimeter role, can stretch the field, which is exactly what Alec Pierce does. In fact, Alec Pierce was one of AD Mitchell's top comps before he was even, in the ZAP model, before he was even drafted to Indianapolis. Like, this is a Chris Ballard type of player. Like, this is just what they like, those like crazy athletes, like AD Mitchell. So I think that he's going to be the number 2 guy, in 2 wide receiver sets with Josh Downs still playing in the slot.
Okay. Someone that maybe if they're on their waiver wire, maybe you should contact them.
Today's data.
So today's data.
Speaking of contact, let's get to today's data where we're talking about yards after contact.
That's right.
I was setting it up before. Maybe we should contact them, and then I was.
Yeah, that's good. I shouldn't have interrupted. Shouldn't have said anything.
I forgive you.
I just pulled some stuff from PFF, some of their yards before contact and yards after contact stuff to show you guys how players are performing and to also talk about yards before and after contact and the way that people are describing them today. Okay. I have an issue when people speak, especially with running back metrics, speak about them like as gospel and that there's nothing wrong with them. There's so many flaws to a lot of rushing metrics, especially when those rushing metrics are on a 3-game sample. Like, this is only looking at guys who have 20 plus rush attempts. This will not stabilize for a really long time. And so when you see stuff like, David Montgomery has a great yards after contact rate, well, why do you think that's the case? Well, he had a monster run against Baltimore last week. So that's going to skew that data, right? Like, realistically, you should be capping this and looking at, or at least like looking at it in conjunction with stuff like success rate, which is a more binary way of looking at how running backs are performing on a per rush basis. But I wanted to show this today I do think that people seem to make it seem like yards before contact is all an offensive line thing. It's not all an offensive line thing. It could be something that's related to the shiftiness of the running back himself, but also the running back just not finding holes properly. Like, it could still be a running back problem. With that being said, if you watch these games, you've seen Ashton Jeanty and Chase Brown not get any push whatsoever. And data does bear that out. I mean, both of them are below 0 in yards before contact per attempt. I know a lot of people have been saying that about Ashton Jeanty. It's the same thing with Chase Brown, according to PFF data. So you got Chase Brown not getting any push right now. Talked about that on both the shows that dropped today, the mailbag and late round perspectives with Kyle Dvorchak. And then Ashton Jeanty obviously has an offensive line problem too. The difference is that Jeanty needs to run more routes. He ran sub 50% of their dropbacks last week. Zamir White was getting a little bit of work through the air, which is really, really not fun to see. But Chase Brown he saw a 19% target share last week. So I'm still not like burying Chase Brown. Talked about that in the mailbag. I do think that we have to punish him for not playing well, and also Joe Burrow being banged up. But I don't think it's the end of the world. And also this data was before last night. So Zach Charbonnet is listed there, but it could have changed with both him and Kenneth Walker. But this is just a really quick visual of where guys are yards before contact per attempt and yards after contact per attempt. And the two of those numbers together create their yards per carry average. It's a fun little way to think about that.
Do you think that Walker got punished after the taunting penalty?
100%. I think Kenneth Walker, look, there is no better game, in my opinion, to see the difference between Zach Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker and the good and the bad for both of those players.
Yeah.
Zach Charbonnet's touchdown was a great run to finish the job and get in the end zone.
He almost had 2.
His one that got called back was also a very good run, and it was an unnecessary holding call on JSN. So that's what you get with Charbonnet. Now, he was met behind, he didn't convert on some of these 3rd and 4th and shorts, but he still, you saw a glimpse of what Zach Charbonnet brings to the table. And then you see the speed and the explosiveness and the acceleration of Kenneth Walker. And then you see the bad with Kenneth Walker. There were 4 different runs, I want to say, where Walker thought he had the hole, didn't. And instead of just trying to churn out a yard or 2, he would run backwards and try to gain more, and he would go around the line of scrimmage to the other side. And it's you can't really do that in the NFL, dude. It's not an easy thing to do. Now, he's athletic enough where he might get away with that sometimes, but that's the Kenneth.
He was trying to break every run. It seemed like.
Yeah, that's always been Kenneth Walker, right. And it's why when I talked about him, I'm always he's less consistent and Charbonnet's more consistent, and we shouldn't be surprised if and when a coaching staff maybe prefers Charbonnet a little bit more. It hasn't happened until really this year, but I think Walker is still like an RB2 type. His ceiling is capped because of Zach Charbonnet for sure, because he's not seeing the goal line work. And then Charbonnet more of like a 3 touchdown dependable and dependent RB3 type.
Don't ask why, but I just really needed that Walker touchdown. Like whenever he went down, whenever they had pass interference in the end zone, I was like, this is it. This is it.
Yeah, it's not.
And then Charbonnet, I'm like, no. And then got stuffed the one. I'm like, okay, now you bring in. Okay, now you bring. No, 3 straight trips with Kendall Walker. Not fun. Maybe next time.
The late round main event.
All right, let's get to some players that you like more than consensus this week, starting with quarterback.
Yeah, there wasn't a ton at quarterback this week. I was assuming in my rankings so I put this together on Thursday night every week. And so I was assuming that Jaden Daniels was playing. So actually I have Geno Smith more at QB 12 and the consensus had him at QB 16. I like Geno this week. Obviously he's a pretty inconsistent player. But the Bears have the second best are the second best matchup by adjusted points allowed to quarterbacks this year. The Raiders have a top 10 implied team total. The Bears have a below average pass rush. And I think that's really big for that aforementioned offensive line of the Raiders. Like Geno could be able to be clean in the pocket and take his time to go through progressions. And so I like the matchup. I like this game. I think this game could be relatively high scoring this week.
Okay. You keep that in your back pocket for when we get to the quad box, please.
Okay. Deal.
Let's get to the running backs, and you got J.K. Dobbins.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just surprised that he was ranked as RB21. My last check, this was again like 12 hours ago. Because he saw an uptick in usage last week because Tyler Bidet only played like a snap or two. Cincinnati is the 4th best matchup for running backs by adjusted points allowed. The Broncos had the 5th highest implied team total. I actually think this could be an RJ Harvey game too. Like we might see a little bit more RJ Harvey this week. So both these guys I think are usable. Dobbins, obviously just the easy go-to because he's seeing more early down work. He's seeing more snaps. He's even running more routes than Harvey, but this could be a game where we start to see a little bit of a shift happen and RJ Harvey kind of get into that, like, like if they're going to use 2 running backs, think of it as like 60-40 with Dobbins getting the 60 and RJ Harvey getting the 40. Whereas it's been more like 70-30 to 75-25 recently.
Yeah. I mean, as someone who has plenty of Broncos, I want to see them. I want to see them like get into the 30s at some point. Like, let's get some points on the board.
Yeah. I got to say though, J.K. Dobbins, this is a very, very much a personal, my team's take, but like J.K. Dobbins might be my fantasy MVP right now, personally, because of the way that like we're getting such solid production out of him.
Yeah.
And I have him in a lot of teams. I just thought he was underrated this year and undervalued, but like, it's such a nice bridge for when some of these rookie running backs, like a Travion Henderson, would be able to maybe get a little bit more work. So I think that, that like yin and yang has been nice.
Are you excited about the Monday night games?
That there's 2 or just what the games are?
No, there's 2.
I'm just excited that the one doesn't start at like 10 o'clock. That's it. You can dual box these games because they're gonna be going on at the same time this week. Thank God.
The games itself not that great. 6:15 or 7:15 and 8:15 Eastern time starts.
That's fine. That's fine. We're used to that. We're used to that kind of thing. I'm just the problem with that for me is that I do 15 transactions on Monday. And then with there being 4 teams playing that night, that means that there's more chance that I'm going to have to edit that show and add a transaction and give you guys a bonus transaction.
Okay, let's go to wide receiver. This guy, let's see what his name is. Rome Odunze?
Yeah, people have said that. I know it's crazy. I hate him so much. And yet every week I've talked about him on this show as a player that I'm higher on versus the market. Look, it's a plus matchup against Vegas this week. He's seen target shares of 26.5%, 33%, 25.5% in 3 games. He's top 15 in air yard share. I know that you can say what you want about Caleb Williams as an actual real NFL quarterback. This offense is going to score fantasy points because number 1, it's designed well, but number 2, the defense is horrible. Like they're not going to be able to play like 13-3 games. Every game with Chicago is more than likely going to be a relative shootout. And so, it's exciting. And so I think that's why you should have been aggressive to get like relatively aggressive to get Luther Burden off the waiver wire this week, even though his peripherals weren't totally there. I think it's why Adunze is still kind of undervalued with what he's doing. I'm not as keen on DJ Moore. Haven't really been keen on DJ Moore this year, but it still helps him too, and then we'll see with Colson Loveland out if it helps Cole Kmet as a streamer. Because I do think Kmet would have made the sleeper show had I had all of that information. So there's another sleeper for you this week. I think Cole Kmet is a streamer.
There you go. Kyle Pitts, who we've had on this show as well before.
I feel like I just bring him up every week at this point.
I know.
Not to say that he was good last week. It was an L from my perspective. He wasn't that
but
great.
He was participating.
Yeah, that's all we care about. Tight end.
Right.
Yeah. He is second among tight ends in route participation rate right now. There could be a negative game script against Washington. I said probable. I haven't updated this since Jaden Daniels was out. But even if there's not a negative game script, it's fine. It's a reasonable matchup by adjusted points allowed. He has a 19% target share this year. There's a chance he moves down like a spot or two in the rankings by Sunday, but I'm still probably going to be higher than the market on Kyle Pitts this week.
Okay, let's get to some bold predictions for week 4. One of them pretty spicy. This one also spicy. Keon Coleman scores 15 plus PPR points this week.
Yeah, look, last week, I'm pretty sure all 3 bold predictions kind of hit.
What was the third one? What the one we were waiting for?
We had Jordan Mason as a top 6 running back. I think he ended up being top 6. We had Nico Collins goes nuclear, which is subjective.
Which pretty much happened, yeah.
Like people might debate that one.
Then he had like 26. He had like 26 PPR points.
Yeah, he was DK.
He was
very good. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the other one was that Marcus Mariota would be a top 8 quarterback.
That's what it was. Yeah.
So those hit last week. Those were good last week. I feel like I need to just I need to do like a show where I'm only talking bold. Like, I wonder if people would just like want me to scrap the, I don't know, sleeper show and just only talk bold about players, because
if you thought you were getting stuff now, wait till you just talk in absolutes with bold stuff.
That's true. That's true. It would be a disaster if I do a show like that. Keon Coleman, 15 plus PPR points this week. The Bills have a 32.5 point implied team total. Teams have been attacking the perimeter against the Saints. They have the second highest outside wide receiver target share rate allowed in the league to start the year. Keon Coleman, there's going to be inconsistency with any Bills wide receiver, but he has an 83% route share. That's the highest on the team. I think people are going to say, oh, he's not going to see that much volume because they're going to be leading, and they might only throw the ball 20 to 23 times or something like that. And I get it. This is more of a first half. Let's see him find the end zone. It's the right matchup. Get him back on track a little bit. It feels like the right kind of play as like a, desperation, not desperation even, but like a high volatile, like a volatile high variance flex this week is what I see in Keon Coleman.
Okay. This guy is the bold call of the week. It feels like Ladd McConkey gets back on track.
Yeah, this was something that I talked about with Kyle Dvorchak on Late Round Perspectives. He brought it up at the end of the show as his bold prediction, and I agree with him. So I'm going to bring it up on this show as a bold prediction. So, some might say this is plagiarism. It's not.
You credited him.
Yeah, exactly. I credited him. I thought it was a good take, and it's something that the data bears out, because I look a lot at slot rates and adjusted slot rates allowed, and the Giants have been third in adjusted slot target share allowed to wide receivers this year. Ladd McConkey has had slot rates of 53%, 76%, and 64%. And it feels, it's just one of those vibes-based ones where we're seeing Keenan Allen and Quentin Johnston do their thing, and now it's Ladd McConkey's turn.
Also said, a guy in my league that refuses to trade me Coleman started watching this show. Do me a solid and say he's a sell just for the bit.
I'd wait until after this week.
Okay. All right, let's get to the look ahead waiver wire, which has been pretty solid. I mean, I'd say maybe instead of the sleepers show, do the look ahead.
Oh, so another 15 transaction show.
The look ahead sleepers.
Yeah.
And bold predictions.
The problem is that I try my best to get like the look ahead, like an Aronde Gadsden or something, that might not make it on like a mainstream waiver wire show or something, but you can see the trajectory kind of happening for him. But yeah, let's look at the look ahead waiver wire guys. So
start with Jackson Dart.
Jackson Dart, like I said, I think he's got rushing upside. If we see that, and what if he just performs well? I mean, it's very easy to see Jackson Dart leading a waiver wire column next week, even though their matchups upcoming are not very strong.
Okay. And then you got Dontavian Wicks on there.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times the way that waiver wire stuff works is that I just saw Keith in chat said, look ahead, bold sleeper prediction, lock of the week. Yeah, exactly. But the thing with waiver wire, like columns and, even with the 15 transaction show, it's still reactive to how a player performs in a given week. And Green Bay is coming off a really bad offensive performance. They get Dallas this week. It's the best matchup you can find on paper. And Dontavian Wicks is basically running that slot role that Jaden Reed would run. And he's seeing a high target share, like targets per route run rate, similar to what Jaden Reed would do and see. And so he's only 3% rostered right now across Yahoo leagues. And so I would say that I did that on purpose.
I know. It still triggered me.
Yeah. But yeah, he's still 3% rostered over on Yahoo, and he, could have a decent day against Dallas. So I wouldn't be surprised if people are saying, "Hey, add Dontavian Wicks."
You think this is Golden's week?
Yes,
far as this week,
very much so.
Yeah.
I almost made him a bold prediction this week. Yeah.
Maybe I'm giving you the opportunity right now to make it a bonus bold prediction.
Matthew Golden goes for 93 yards and a touchdown.
Okay. Here you go.
I'm going to write that down so that we don't forget. Matthew Golden.
Yeah.
93 yards, 1 touchdown. I'm not going to give you the receptions. It's just the yardage total with the
I was about to say, could you, bonuses, you could say like 20 PPR points, but it's all right. We'll take your word for it. All right. Parker Washington, the Jags leading receiver.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like De'Ami Brown's banged up. Travis Hunter's not playing a ton. I think Parker Washington's like not a bad player, and he can play the slot, and they have a good slot matchup this week. So again, similar idea as Dontavian Wicks. Parker Washington could just see production and then be someone that people want to add off the waiver wire.
Okay, Aronde Gadsden. This is a guy who I'm excited about because of best ball bags in particular.
Yeah, Gadsden's fun, man. I mean, he's a converted wide receiver. He didn't look like amazing in the Zap model just because of his draft capital and stuff. But someone that last week ran 14 routes, saw 7 targets on those routes, which is insane. It's not going to maintain, but they've already talked about him earning more work in that offense. Here's my fear with Gadsden this week and why I didn't mention him on the sleeper show. Number 1, that's not a big route share, right? Number 2, that game script last week was pretty favorable for a player like Gadsden, whereas this one this week against Jackson Dart and the Giants, you could see a positive game script emerging and happening for them. And if that happens, they probably are going to use like a Tyler Conklin more, just a safer bet as a blocking tight end. So there's some fear there that Gadsden doesn't necessarily, get a lot of work this week, but he's someone that absolutely needs to be on everyone. I mean, I got him for basically free in a lot of leagues this week. Part of that was because I feel like sometimes players get more steam as the week goes on. And if you do a Tuesday to Wednesday waiver, you can sometimes get values on players. And that was the case with Gadsden. It was like almost like the masses didn't realize fully what was going on with Gadsden until Wednesday.
Yeah.
And then the Wednesday, Thursday waivers, he was a little bit more expensive, but he was really cheap for, in a lot of my leagues, on Tuesday, Wednesday. So he's now as I call it, a pants off player for the late round brand this season, because I've got a lot of Aronde Gadsden.
Okay. I almost mentioned CeeDee Lamb on the news, but we're going to talk about who you'd prefer, and that's Kevontae Turpin.
Yeah, I think Jalen Tolbert, like we know what kind of player he is. Turpin is dynamic, really fun with the ball in his hands. He had a 70% route share last week. I think I should have called him out on the sleeper show this week as a player that we could, because also you got to think about, this is a Green Bay defense that is really, really good. They can get to the quarterback. They might need some easier dump offs, which is why I also want to just see what they do with Jaden Blue. I'm not saying they're going to dress him, but if they do, like obviously
we got some positive coach speak this week, at least
a little bit. Yeah, a little bit, but like he's the kind of player, and Turpin's the kind of player that you probably need to just kind of dump the ball off to in a game against this kind of pass rush. And so, 70% route share last week is strong. He's a dynamic player. So we'll see what happens. If he has good production, if he still sees his kind of route share, then he could find, some waiver wire columns.
Is Turpin, is he still returning kicks? Yes. He's returned 3 punts and 10 kickoffs.
Yeah.
We like those kickoff return guys. All right. Taj Brooks.
This is mostly just like,
what if Chase Brown is a bum?
Yeah. What if he's dust? Yeah. I don't really think we're ever going to start Taj Brooks without a Chase Brown injury, though.
Okay. Roshan Johnson.
DeAndre Swift's been a little bit banged up. Kyle Monangai, I don't think is that special of a player. They might give Roshan Johnson work eventually. That's what this take is.
We keep putting him on this list, or this is, I think, the first time he's on this list. But if we just from this point forward keep on putting him on this list, I'd be fine with, just because it gives me a little bit of hope. Yeah,
a little bit of hope there.
Elijah Arroyo.
So we saw last night Arroyo looked good. I thought Arroyo's another one of those players who is very much a pass catching tight end. He's athletic and he had good metrics, like a really solid prospect. And so last night, we did see AJ Barner find the end zone, but listen to these route shares from Elijah Arroyo: 38% week 1, 51% week 2, 38% week 3, 61% last night against Arizona. He had a 17% target share. So I think he should be on your radar as sort of like, an Arondé Gadsden situation, someone who's just like, he's a rookie. We want to be aggressive with rookies and first-year players because we don't know what their ceiling really is. And I would much rather prefer the ceiling of Elijah Arroyo versus the ceiling of AJ Barner at this point.
Had a 32-yard catch, had 4 targets, and I thought he was going to score a touchdown at one point.
Yeah.
All right. The last one, you got the Cleveland Browns defense.
You're not playing the Browns this week against Detroit, but if you want to look ahead defense, they get Minnesota next week in Cleveland. So Carson Wentz, more than likely, in Cleveland. The Browns defense is not bad.
Yeah.
But
especially the pass rush. Yeah.
I wouldn't be playing them against Detroit, though.
No, let's not do that. Okay. Let's get on. Oh, no, I forgot. I didn't do hold on. Now we're there.
Wow, what a great transition.
I'm sorry. I was just so excited to talk about the quad box.
Oh, are you going to pick the Giants? And
No. I'm going to let the chat pick which game they want. So the chat gets to pick one of the 4 games because I messed it up last week by picking the Chiefs and the Giants. So chat gets to pick right now which games they like. You see right here the games that are available. You got Colts, Rams, Ravens, Chiefs, Bills, Saints, no. Raiders, Bears, Packers, Cowboys, that Sunday night game. So these are some of the teams you have to choose from. And
we got a consensus in chat right now.
Yeah. Colts, Rams.
Colts, Rams. We'll throw them up there. That's chat's quad box pick. I agree. I think Colts, Rams is the most intriguing game this weekend.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of things. I think we're going to just learn a lot this weekend from that game.
Okay. All right.
I will go, or do you want the next pick, or do you want me to have it?
No, you can have it.
I will take the Ravens Chiefs because it's chalk.
Oh, really? Taking the Chiefs in the late afternoon game. Where do you get your ideas?
Yeah, the Chiefs, when they're underdogs in a game against Baltimore, is way more interesting than the Chiefs when they're big favorites against Russell Wilson in the year 2025. Yeah, little bit more intriguing, Kitchen.
Okay. These Monday night games are terrible.
Yeah.
But I will go with Green Bay and Dallas and that Sunday night football game. Let's run the Sunday night football back. That game back. I was a little bit surprised to see this game only a 6.5 point difference.
Yeah, I mean it's in Dallas. I think that plays a role. And Dallas is always, it's America's team, so people bet on them more than they should.
We've got the drama. We've got the intrigue. We've got the underdog story. Someone stepping up for CeeDee Lamb. We got Pickens that could shine in the limelight.
This is a fine pick. I'm not gonna critique this pick.
No. I feel like I need to justify my picks, or else I'll just get roasted by the chat and in Discord. So Ravens and Chiefs, and then Dallas against Green Bay.
Yeah, Green Bay. The last one I think is really genuinely up in the air. Like, can go in a lot of different directions. I have a pick that someone said, John in chat is saying that Chase Brown's going to be fine, and then Taj Brooks is a look ahead waiver wire target. Guys, I'm looking at the range of outcomes here. Okay, people. I think I am probably higher than a lot of people on Chase Brown rest of season based on the fact that people think Chase Brown is complete dust. I don't think he's dust. Okay. That's the take. That's my take on Chase Brown.
I did actually. Joe Bondi mentioned it. Did you know Micah Parsons is going to be playing against his old team?
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. I am going to, I think the chalk play with what's left is Eagles Buccaneers, I would say. And
you get to choose. It's what game you want.
I know. I'm gonna go Eagles Buccaneers.
It's a bad choice, but that's okay.
Why is it a bad choice?
It's probably gonna be just a slow game. If it was me, I'd want to see the Raiders and Bears.
The Buccaneers play the Eagles well typically, and it should be fun.
Okay. JJ, this is your pick, not mine. And if it doesn't go well next week, you can always just toss it to the chat to pick one of yours.
My TV right here has the Ryder Cup on right now, and I accidentally just hit the volume button and it turned it on, so I didn't hear anything that you just said.
Okay. Well, probably a good thing.
Probably.
No, I said if your pick does not hit next week, then or on Sunday, then you just use the chat to pick. So. Yeah, but I did say if I could pick my second game, and I'm not going to, if I could pick, it would be Raiders and Bears.
Yeah, like everyone's saying, and I mentioned it too. The Bucks play the Eagles well, which is why I think, and Baker's a really fun watch. And what if the Eagles are opening things up a little bit? And the Bucks.
I'm not a historical game guy. Like I don't factor in past seasons games.
No, I think a lot of that stuff is BS, but I don't think it's BS when you have a similar coaching staff.
Okay,
you know.
Say we had like Chargers and Giants, which like just seeing Jackson.
That's only because of Jackson Dart.
Jackson Dart, right?
You love the Giants.
No, I don't. It's also the Chargers who said Ladd McConkey is gonna. I'm just looking for things right now.
I think that they might have been next on the list, but I think you got to go with the Bucks and Eagles ahead of them.
I'm gonna say Vikings and Steelers if
Ireland game.
If it's an Ireland game and if they have some sort of promo for the late round podcast on there. So we'll see.
Is that happening?
It might.
What are you talking about?
It might.
Okay.
So you'll just have to see. Not like a commercial, but the scroller, the ticker.
Oh yeah, that's true. Okay. Yeah, because we are part of the Shield now.
We are part of the Shield in the NFL Network. So they should have sent us to Ireland.
Oh my gosh, that would have been awesome.
Next year. Oh, because it's the Steelers in Ireland.
I know.
Loved it.
Yeah, it's my team.
That should have been in the contract. That's on me as well. All right, JJ. Let's wrap this up. I appreciate everybody in the chat for hanging out with us. And as always, this is just a fun show. It's an interactive show. It's a way to just kind of wrap up this week as we look ahead towards Sunday's games, Sunday and Monday's games. So shout out to again to DraftKings. You can scan that big fat QR code right there if you want to hop in. And JJ, you have any final thoughts?
Enjoy the Ryder Cup this weekend. Go USA. Have a little pride in the old country there. And
I love how. Are you usually this involved in the Ryder Cup?
I love golf.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I love watching. Yeah. This morning, Kitchen and I had our meeting, and I was just watching the Ryder Cup the whole time.
How nice is it though to have the TV now in your office where you can watch it?
Yeah. This way. Yeah. I have two TVs in my office now, but this is one that's directly in my line of sight. Yeah. Living big because TVs are really expensive these days. I got this one for a total of like $80, guys. It's crazy. Thanks to the patrons.
All right. Well, again, we appreciate everyone hanging in there with us. And if your team is S in the B, just RELAX and stick with the process. And I'm just positive that everyone listening to the show is going to get a big win this week. No one's going to lose. It's just going to be undefeated for the thousands of people watching and listening to this show, because that's how it works, JJ. That's how it works. So on behalf of JJ, I'm David. We'll see you next time here on the Late Round Fantasy Football Show, sponsored by DraftKings.